In 1991, Greg Counts and Dyke Perry were living their lives in New York City when a nightmare unfolded.
Justice for two men wrongly convicted of raping a woman in Central Park in 1991.
They were accused of a horrific crime, the kidnapping and rape of a young woman.
Now, I see a little white woman, I'm more scared than she is.
The allegations came as a complete shock to them, as both men insisted they had never even met the woman.
I got a lot to talk about. I got like 20, almost 30 years to talk about.
Yet their pleas of innocence went unheard. Based solely on her testimony, they were convicted and sentenced to years behind bars.
These two men were convicted of kidnapping, rape, and sodomy.
Greg and Dyke endured years of imprisonment, their names tarnished, and their spirits worn down. It was only when the Innocence Project took up their case that hope began to flicker.
All this time, through the whole process, from the whole 27 years from the beginning, all the way to the end.
In 2017, new DNA testing revealed that the biological evidence from the crime scene did not match either man.
That's like part of the post-traumatic thing. Like if I get on the elevator,
It's never going to be over. The reason why, because it tormented my life and it's my past.
Even more troubling, it came to light that the victim had been coerced by another individual into making the false accusation.
The hardest part of reintegration is your freedom. Like you can go where you want to go. But the craziest part about it, you can go where you want to go, and I don't have nowhere to go really sometimes.
The truth was finally uncovered after 26 years of wrongful imprisonment and shattered dreams.
That time I played for my life. And I was young, I'm scared to death, I don't know what's going on.
Greg Counts and Dyke Perry were officially exonerated in 2018.
But they just kept going on. It's like a locomotive train that was going full throttle.
Walking out as free men with a lifetime of missed moments and opportunities behind them.
I can't live off hate. Nobody can live off hate. You know, like I just said earlier inside the courthouse, if I could waste 10 minutes being angry.
Their story underscores the devastating impact of wrongful convictions and the importance of uncovering the truth, no matter how long it takes.
Many states do not provide compensation if someone has been wrongfully convicted and incarcerated. New York is not one of those states. You can get compensated.
Eric Kelly and Ralph Lee were both family men from Paterson, New Jersey, with little idea that their lives would be turned upside down by a crime they didn't commit.
Lee and his co-defendants say police pressured them to confess to Tito Marino's murder here. They recanted those confessions, and there never was any physical evidence linking them to the crime.
In 1993, a store clerk was brutally murdered, and police, under pressure to solve the case, quickly honed in on Eric and Ralph. After hours of questioning, and with little understanding of their rights, both men confessed, believing they'd soon be free if they just cooperated.
It was heartbreaking, you know, for my family to be taken away from my family. Birthday after birthday, holidays, and everything was, you know, it's just real sad.
The confessions were full of inaccuracies and inconsistencies, but they were enough for a conviction. Eric and Ralph each received harsh sentences, facing the prospect of spending their lives behind bars.
A man from New Jersey spent more than 20 years in prison for a murder he did not commit.
They spent more than 2 decades fighting for justice, their families growing older without them, life moving on outside the prison walls. Finally, in 2017, DNA evidence from the crime scene was tested and revealed the presence of another man's DNA.
To be able to embrace them, that's one of the best feelings ever.
A man with a violent criminal record who was known to be in the area at the time of the murder.
Today, he sat down with CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez about being a free man and getting his life back.
With this new evidence, the case was re-examined, and in 2018, Eric Kelly and Ralph Lee were exonerated.
A moment, Roy, this is a moment of justice, okay? It's not something to celebrate or not celebrate.
After 24 years, they walked free, but the years lost could never be returned. Their story is a powerful reminder of how confessions under pressure can lead to devastating consequences.
Actually living for once, you know what I'm saying? I've been gone 24, it's been a long time. I just don't.
In 2003, Juan Catalan found himself in a terrifying situation. A young father and a hard worker Juan was arrested for the murder of a teenage girl, Martha Puebla, who had been shot outside her home in Los Angeles.
I could be, on death row right now.
Authorities claimed he killed her as revenge for testifying against his brother.
And I think that I was speechless for like 5 minutes.
Despite his insistence that he was innocent and was, in fact, at a Los Angeles Dodgers game with his daughter on the night of the murder, Juan was charged and faced the possibility of the death penalty.
And we were watching tape after tape after tape, and finally he showed up on tape number 5.
Juan's lawyer, convinced of his innocence, went to great lengths to prove his alibi, even obtaining footage from the Dodgers game. Miraculously, they found a clip that showed Juan in the stands with his daughter at the exact time of the murder.
I'm sitting all the way up there.
So Melnick combed through all of the raw footage, hoping to spot his client among the thousands in attendance.
It was a race against time, but the evidence was irrefutable. This footage, along with phone records that confirmed his location, ultimately led to his exoneration.
Well, I jumped out of my chair and I pointed at the screen and I said, that's him, roll that back.
In 2004, Juan Catalan was finally released after spending nearly 6 months behind bars.
We have a pretty special bond.
His story became a symbol of how quickly someone's life can be destroyed by a wrongful accusation.
You ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm before this game?
Never. I had never heard that name before, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
And how crucial it is to fight for the truth, even when the odds seem insurmountable.
He's a good man with a good soul.
It all began in 2004 when Clemente Agir, a young Honduran immigrant, found himself at the heart of a horrific crime scene.
Hello, my name is Clemente Agir. I'm from Honduras.
One morning, he stumbled upon the bodies of his neighbors, 68-year-old Carol Barras and 47-year-old Cheryl Williams, both brutally stabbed to death. In a panic, Clemente checked to see if they were alive, leaving his fingerprints and traces of blood at the scene. However, his attempt to help would soon be turned against him. Despite his pleas of innocence, the police zeroed in on him as the only possible suspect.
14 years, 4 months, and 19 days. I've been incarcerated.
Within months, Clemente was charged with first-degree murder and burglary, a crime he didn't commit. Soon, he was on trial for his life. The prosecution painted a grim picture, ignoring Clemente's consistent story that he found the bodies and tried to help.
Years on death row, Javier Aguirre appearing in a Seminole County court. In October, the Florida Supreme Court ruled a new trial.
Instead, they focused on the blood evidence. His clothes and footprints were stained, linking him to the scene, but not as a killer. The justice system was relentless, and soon Clemente was sentenced to die.
And I thank you for it. From the bottom of my heart.
14 long years on death row followed, years spent battling to clear his name and expose the truth.
Unanimously decided that based on the newly discovered evidence of the DNA, of the blood stains at the crime scene.
Finally, in a groundbreaking development, DNA testing revealed a crucial detail.
As usual, the cops started their investigation by knocking on neighbors' doors and asking everyone if they had seen or heard anything odd.
The blood at the crime scene included that of Samantha Williams, the daughter of one of the victims who had a history of violent outbursts and was diagnosed with an explosive disorder before the murders. Disturbingly, her blood was found leading from the scene, and witnesses came forward with stories of her confessing the crime.
I didn't do it. I don't kill nobody.
For Clemente, this was the lifeline he had been praying for. His case was reopened, and with undeniable evidence pointing to another suspect, his nightmare ended. In 2018, Clemente Agir walked free. As he embraced his loved ones, tears in his eyes, he looked toward a future he had once feared he'd never see. His story, a testament to resilience and the fight for justice, lives on as a haunting reminder of how easily an innocent life can be shattered by a flawed system.
Thanks to God and the Innocent Projects, who bring me a group of attorneys who fought for my freedom.
Devonte Sanford was just 14 years old, a kid with big dreams despite growing up in a tough neighborhood in Detroit. In 2007, tragedy struck when 4 people were found murdered in a drug house nearby.
He's the man who was wrongly convicted of the murder of 4 people as a teenager. He was shot late last night on Detroit's east side.
The police were eager to solve the case, and their attention quickly turned to young Devonte. Although he had no connection to the crime, he was picked up, questioned without a lawyer or his parents present, and subjected to intense pressure.
In the course of their targeting him, they literally fabricated evidence and committed perjury.
Eventually, he gave a confession.
Devonte Sanford, in his own words, he is set to speak at the National Convention for the Innocence Network, a coalition of groups dedicated to freeing the innocent around the globe.
A confession that didn't match the details of the crime, but was enough to seal his fate.
Every day I wake up and I see that I'm seeing
With limited resources, Devonte's family couldn't afford a proper defense, and soon this 14-year-old was facing adult prison time for a crime he didn't commit. He spent years behind bars, surrounded by walls that seemed to get higher and darker each day.
I want to make some of it, because I know how easy it is where it can get took just like that.
But Devonte never gave up, always insisting on his innocence. Then a shocking twist emerged. A hitman named Vincent Smothers confessed to the crime, detailing exactly how he and an accomplice carried out the murders.
The hitman later confessed to the Runyon Street killings. Sanford had been quietly living at the apartments with his girlfriend.
Smothers had no connection to Devonte, and was clear that Devonte had nothing to do with the crime.
14 at the time. His case making national news last summer when a judge set Sanford free after massive problems with the Wayne County prosecutor's case against him were found.
Despite this confession, the wheels of justice turned slowly.
Meantime, Sanford's pastor says he wants to get Devonte Sanford out of these apartments for the safety of Sanford and those around him. In Detroit, Sean Lay, Local 4.
Finally, after nearly 9 years in prison, Devonte was exonerated in 2016.
More on this, Jen. Joanne, Devonte Sanford's name is now clear. A judge officially dismissed the charges against
A young man whose childhood was stolen now had a second chance, but he was left to rebuild a life scarred by injustice.
again after spending 8 years behind bars. He has since said he wants to be a mentor for young people in Metro Detroit.